I would have just called her a pervert for staring so hard. Okay, so let's start the roast session. I don't know why, but her entire frame, hair, and head shape reminds me of a lollipop. We're going to be marching into unseen territory, the one true genre, romance. More specifically, Suagr Apple Fairy Tale. The last time I watched an anime that had the word sugar in the title, it had casual attempted murder and a lot of romantic tension, I'll call it that. Hopefully this anime is different. But yeah, we're gonna be watching this shit. Following the type 2 diabetes adventures of Anne the Dropped Lollipop, who doesn't want to fix the issues of the enslaved fairies, but would rather go win a sugar competition. Yeah, this anime was for sure made in the South. And I know how niggas be hating on Rachel from Tower of God or bitch from Shield Hero, but man, we got a real contender for biggest asshole this season. There's some things that romance animes can get away with that if you did, you could just easily call the police right away. They wouldn't even ask any questions about it. I guess it's a part of the charm for romance animes. Also, I want to just point out, I don't like how on multiple occasions characters make a pass at Anne, saying like, in another 5 years, you're gonna look great. I gotta go check if the sub says that. Like, is that how shoujo gets down? That is crazy. But I'm not your fucking parent. Alright, so episode 1. It starts out with the main girl talking to her mother when she was a child, with this serving as the reason why she doesn't treat fairies like absolute garbage. So it basically boils down to fairies make sugar, so that's why confectionists should treat them good. When it should have been, hey sweetie, enslaving people is bad. Why is humanity as a whole batshit insane for making this the first option after winning a war? No, you could pay a tax, you could just not do it again. Enslave them! Wait, what? Who does this? Why is that the first option? But I guess you can't tell a 5-year-old that, so yeah. The mother's obviously dead because it's anime. Our main girl is Anne, and she's a candy craftswoman, with her first call of action being to leave her clingy childhood best friend, Jonas. Jonas is wrong for wanting to keep her tied down, as well as bringing up marriage like for the 100th time, with her understandably leaving him, not wanting him or his money. In the next town over, a whole crowd of people gather as they watch a fairy hunter punish his fairy. Apparently, if you crush a fairy's wing, it gives them a seizure. The crowd doesn't like the violent man's actions, but since it isn't a crime, they don't stop him. Anne's had enough of watching this and she just straight up kicks him, but after the fairy gets free, it doesn't feel the need to thank her, just simply running away. She next goes to the fairy market to buy the visually stunning heartthrob of a fairy named Xiaofin Xiao. I guess this is serving as the fat material for the audience. The way they took their time to pan all over this nigga's body made me feel uncomfortable. I guess this is like how girls feel when ichi shows be doing what they be doing in anime. I don't know. Xiao from Rip is just insulting her, calling her like a scarecrow. I would have just called her a pervert for staring so hard. Okay, so let's start the roast session. I don't know why, but her entire frame, hair, and head shape reminds me of a lollipop. Plus, she got a gigantic forehead. Like, it's fucking huge. That shit massive. Also, her beetle eyes scare the shit out of me. Like, just imagine those red beady eyes just staring at you, glaring at you while you sleep. Scariest shit I've ever seen. Xiao's body is giving off some grasshopper vibes to me. You look like that one nigga. No, not him. This nigga. Looking like Mr. Grasshopper from James and the Giant Peach. The way this nigga walks to me too, oh my gosh, oh lanky ass nigga. Basketball player ass nigga. Let me take your coat, oh butler ass nigga. May I take your bags, madam? As pale as the moon ass nigga. Twilight vampire ass nigga. Edward, is that you? Ass nigga. Still, the old man gets mad at some of the stuff he says and then crushes his wings, forcing Anne to buy him. In the carriage, Anne is trying to sound as progressive and inclusive as possible, hoping that they could one day be friends, and if she has to be the first to open up the bridge of trust to the other side, she will, because that's how her mother taught her. Xiao proceeds to call her and her dead mother brainless and wasteful fools. Those were fighting words, but she calms down, deciding to let it go. But not before some classic hot guy putting his hand on the wall against the girl, being the Kapitan. Apparently this technique was so effective in Japan that they had to just straight up outlaw it, but since it's shoujo and he's hot, he can get away with it. At night, Anne stares deeply into his wings. Instinctually, she tries to touch it, but Xiao gets angry, telling her to back away. While Anne's having a dream about her dead mother, Xiao gets on top of her. Anne wakes up, assuming that he's trying to get his wing back. She's then confused, not understanding why he doesn't want to be friends with her. Xiao reminds her that she did just buy him, and that she holds his life in her hands, saying, how can I possibly be friends with a race of people that once and still are enslaving my people? Whew, whoa. Yeah, he's making some solid points right now, Anne. Like, what's your response? But Xiao, You'd be surprised what 400 years could do. You somehow just get over it. Anne realizes that her request is a bit selfish, so uses her caterpillar powers to roll herself to sleep. The next episode ends with a carriage being ransacked by some bandits. The bandits deciding to instead attack the cart that's further away, like, okay, that's more work for you when you didn't even go into the first carriage. Anne wanting Xiao to go stop them, Xiao being horny and using this time to get closer to his master, wanting her to order him around. Would that sound like a kink? Wanting a controlling, bossy girl, with also wanting her to use force on him? What's the word I'm thinking about? Masochist. Oh yeah, that's the word. But he slices up the bandits in like 2 seconds. Episode 2. Anne is staring intently at Xiao like a cold glass of water, cause she thirsty. Then she finds out that Jonas was the one in the carriage, and boner gone. Jonas talks about marriage again, asking if Xiao is her companion fairy, wink wink nudge nudge. Xiao interrupts them cause it's awkward, with it being creepy that Jonas wrote here the entire time without sleeping or taking a break. Bro needs to take a hint, she don't like you. Anne again can't stop staring at bro. You are horny. She goes to offer Jonas some food, but the labor fairy calls it gross, and she gives it to Xiao, making him shocked that she would feed him before eating, and bro just sucks it up. Pause. Okay, so he uses magic to absorb it into his body, basically. Apparently fairies don't use their mouths to actually eat, it's blood. So what exactly is your mouth good for? Absolutely nothing. Hearing that fairies have no taste other than the silver sugar, she decides to go make something for him, where we meet the labor fairy from earlier, Mithril. I don't know why, but when Jonas was saying you there, the Xiao, it felt racist. Apparently people just rename fairies to more human sounding names. Wow, that sounds like something else. I swear they must have went to the south to write this anime. The little hints is crazy. Next, Jonas gave off some strong slave owner vibes. First he told Kathy, his labor fairy, to shut up and to keep her opinions to herself, then told that bitch to disappear, to the next smiling back to Anne like nothing just happened, saying his fairy needs some more training. Yeah, this is a good reason why she's not interested in Jonas. Another one. The next day we learn how fairies are made. Basically, people would just stare intently at stuff and that object would just turn into a fairy. That rock is now a fairy. That plane of grass, those are now fairies. This glizzy. But this lore talk is interrupted by a flock of hungry, bloodthirsty crows attacking the carriage. Xiao kills them and they stay the night at a doctor's inn. Episode 3. So after they settle in, they go eat. Anne is confused why the fairies are just standing up and not sitting down to eat. She pleads with the doctor to let them sit down. I beg your pardon? But that proceeds one of them to poke fun at her. Anne gets mad when he calls her fairy a companion fairy, with her trying to make it crystal clear that she's not banging her fairy. They want to test this theory out and attack Xiao. Afterwards, they say they're gonna make it up to her by paying their inn fees, but Anne has to make them some sweets, which doesn't sound like you're paying someone back at all. With this, we learn that Jonas actually has some type of ambition, with him wanting to be a noble, with him offering to give Anne an easy life after they get married. But Anne doesn't care. The two of them make their confections, and the man applauds their work, but then quickly crushes both of them, calling it ugly. Calling Jonas technically gifted, but lacking creativity, while Anne is better, but says she's just copying somebody else. He leaves saying it was a fun way to waste some time. Yeah, the guy's just an asshole. Xiao tries to cheer her up by giving her his origin story, saying a human girl brought him to life, with his being his sister, mother, or family in general, I don't know which one. But the girl mysteriously dies by human hands. The next day, Anne wants to make a sugar confection for him, but is all out of sugar, with her not even having enough for the contest, making her heartbroken. Kathy tells her that she saw Mithril coming out of her wagon last night, covered in sugar. Stop the cap! But the way they made it sound was so dumb, it was hilarious. They keep saying how he stole this sugar, and I'm just thinking, how the fuck does this little ass fairy run away with a barrel of sugar? He can barely lift an apple. Even if he ate it, he's right now in a coma. Eat dad! But then you remember that fairies don't eat, they suck, so, you know. Mithril walks into a witch hunt. He leaves, but promises that he didn't do it. Jonas offers her a tip, saying that they can get some sugar from these apple orchards nearby. Anne looks at her mother's life work, wanting to honor it. Jonas then comes in to grab her, saying how much he loves her, moving in closer for a kiss. Anne just straight up slaps him, this time making it crystal clear, telling this nigga she doesn't see him in a romantic way, which had to be said. His fairy Kathy comes back in, hinting to something, but we basically learn that she has a crush on Jonas. With this sounding like a case of Stockholm Syndrome, like how? The next day, Jonas runs in to compliment Anne's work, and assumes that everything is cleared up between the two of them, and they can just go back to being normal. Oh, Anne, it's never that simple. After you break an emotionally driven character's heart, things don't go back to being normal. Jonas plays it cool until Kathy gets back. Wild animals are running towards them, and I'm just like, what the fuck is about to happen? Anne is starting to question what's going on. Then this nigga Jonas is just like, if you would have fallen in love with me, then none of this would have happened. So this is on her. She tries to let you down easy, but she has to reject you, and now you're trying to kill her. This is the most suburban emo shit I've ever heard. Xiao saves her, but this girl wants him to go after Jonas to get her sugar art project back. Anne's priorities are all out of whack. Episode 4. Xiao then explains everything. Jonas had Kathy steal her sugar to frame Mithril, then took her work because he lacked the skill to make it. Anne is dejected, now realizing that she has no way of catching up to them. Now she can't honor her mother because of this sugar religion crap, and her mother's life work is now gone. She gives Xiao his wing back, telling him to leave, with her being done, which he does, allowing her to cry alone. The next day, she makes a fairy by accident, being Lucille. Xiao comes back, telling Lucille to leave, with humans enslaving their race. Lucille thanks him for the hint and leaves. Xiao then tells Anne to honor her promise of making him a sugar confection. Anne appreciates this and comes back with her best work. Xiao now allows her to touch his wings. Xiao decides not to eat it and says they're gonna use this for the contest, with him riding 2 days straight to get there in time. This is where we see Mercury again, being the guy at the end. He allows Anne to participate. Jonas has some words, but there's nothing else you could say after trying to kill someone and then stealing their life's work. The king picks both Anne and Jonas, with the king and Mercury both seeing that this was made by the same person, hinting at it. Anne is about to win, but the queen butts in I like the bigger one. Bitch, you ain't even a judge. You don't get an opinion here. And Jonas wins. But Mithril causes a scene, try to making Jonas look like some incompetent master with him not paying his sugar fee. Jonas has had enough of this. He grabs Anne, he grabs Mithril, and he says that Mithril's working for Anne. Mithril says that's true, but that Jonas did steal her work. Mercury has the perfect technique to know who's the artist behind their work. With every school knowing what's about to happen next, he makes the students show their work, redoing this entire test, with the king as the judge. And obviously wins, with Jonas looking like a cheater. But Anne still can't get a win. They admit that she made the work, but she somehow isn't the original creator that made the first one, so no one gets a royal medal. This part is just so stupid. So she makes the first fucking butterfly, she don't win. She makes the second one, teardrop fairy, she don't win. She now makes her fully original butterfly shit, and she still don't win. I don't care that she imitated her mother on the first one. She made 2 fire-ass pieces that should've won. The queen asked for Anne to come back and compete, but fuck the queen. This bitch had Anne lose the first time. I guess they do allow Anne to punish Jonas for cheating, doing whatever she sees fit. I wonder how much crime we would have if we had this rule implemented everywhere, with Anne slapping the piss out this man. Xiao now vows to stay with her until she wins. Okay, so episode 5. So basically, Anne was trying to go see the confectionist she looked up to when she was a child, but his shop is not there. But after a misunderstanding where a man in a black coat steals the confectionist's sugar and ends up working there at the shop, the man thinking that she stole it. The confectionist being named Cat. Mr. Cat is gifted and dim-witted, but has a serious side to himself. Overall has some pretty good chemistry with the 3 of them, and ends up clearing up the situation, finding the man in the black coat and getting him arrested. Cat gives her an apology for thinking that she stole it, and we learn that he was a silver sugar master or whatever. Cat then tells her never to idolize someone, believing that she would never be able to make her own original piece better that way. Episode 6. Basically, Anne gets talked into go seeing the Duke, with him paying 1,000 crests to anyone who can make him a piece that he likes. When he gets there, we see Jonas again. This time with an entourage, with him still lying about the situation, about what happened with the king. The Duke basically wants her to create a piece that looks just like this blue-haired elf. Jonas is able to complete his piece and move over to the tower. He rubs it into Anne's face, but in 5 minutes, she's already in the tower as well. Episode 7. So yeah, this episode is crazy. The Duke rejects their pieces again. We notice that Jonas is acting super pressed, and he has a bruise on his face. At first, it made me think that Kathy was the one beating his ass, but yeah, no. We get more information about Liz again, but it didn't seem like it was any real important information. But for some reason, this still made Anne cry. I don't know how. But this is where Jonas gets violent again. And now he takes Mithril's wing, rips it off, crushes it. He then threatens Anne with it, saying, "You're gonna do whatever I say," saying she's gonna be working in this tower forever. Anne then comes back to her room crying. She doesn't tell Xiao what happened, instead telling him to leave, which, assumedly is what Jonas told her to do. He beats up some bandits, and Mercury comes up to him. He warns him about the Duke, saying they're about to go smoke him basically. Xiao's wondering what's happening at the Duke's place. At the tower, Jonas was trying to do the old double dip of evil, with them both going to see the Duke. The Duke already told him the first time what happens if he tried to escape. He'd bring out the chains. Jonas is begging and shitting his pants, saying he wants to just leave, saying he even drove away her fairies so she can't escape. The Duke is still wanting to smack him again, but this ball of sunshine known as Anne defends Jonas. She promises to finish the piece, allowing Jonas to leave. Jonas calls her stupid, gives back Mithril's wings, and leaves. So basically the Duke hasn't been showing up to his noble meetings in like a year, making some Earl get very pissed off, wanting to send some soldiers to attack him, which is a bit extreme for really not committing a real crime, but okay. Mercury gets there, but he can't convince him to leave, with the Duke ready to fight, and then looks at the painting again, noticing why they got it wrong. The fairy had 2 wings, which means she was never made to serve any human, with Anne having to hear the story so she can get it perfectly right. Also, on a side note, Mithril was able to attach his wings back, but he hasn't done that to the first one he got. I assumed fairies couldn't do that, and I guess Mithril was just choosing to have 1 wing. Maybe they just forgot to animate this part, but I noticed that. To start, the opening song sounds like a sweet fairy tale. See what I did there? It wouldn't win any awards, but it's easy to listen to. Mainly how light the artist's voice is, and the pacing of the song, but also because it's very short. Basically, it would take up no time at all if you watch this every episode. Animation wise, it has a lot of sparkle effects and glow effects into it. Visually, it looks better than your Walmart isekais, but lower than a big shonen. As far as a character, Anne is fine for a main lead. She shows more facial expressions and personalities than a lot of characters this season, and really every season I would say. She's on the higher end of character. But it does feel at some parts of the show where she's just like a doormat character that's just allowing people to get away with too much shit and simply going with the flow too much. She reminds me of a kid who would just simply lower their head and just be like accepting whatever comes to them. Shao and her really don't have any romantic chemistry. I guess if you want to bring up them staring at each other the entire times, then sure, but I don't. That's not really a romantic scene. Here's to me one of the highest aspects of, say, romance development is the actual dialogue between the characters, a la Spice and Wolf. Compare this show to a Spice and Wolf direction of romantic tension and storytelling, and it's simply just not there. Even though you have a very shocking point about the slaves being the fairies, sure, but no, that's not enough. I'm sorry to say. I would even say something like Raptalia and Nafumi work better romantically than these two. Speaking of Shao, I guess he's the male version of a Mondari, a character who's harsh at first, but after joining the hero's side, has a change of heart, mixed in with a Kundere, since he stays calm in every situation, never showing a different emotion. As far as other development, he mentions Liz a lot, and that's enough to count as romance apparently. I know people want to say, he's opening up, okay? It's like, well, he didn't give a lot of information about the said girl, for one, and two, he's not talking to Liz, he's talking to Anne now. He needs to go in detail about how that made him feel, if anything, but then also be able to talk about other things outside of Liz. Like, the anime doesn't do much to explore those two's actual chemistry together in different scenarios, since one, Anne is always working, and Shao is either just being rude or just talking about his past with Liz. He doesn't have any meaningful things to say. Also, after being so understandably angry about the whole fairy thing, he then mellows out after talking to Anne some bit. Like, yeah, I can say, oh, he's a different character, but it's just the same time his dialogue scenes have gone down, and he's not going into detail about anything he feels about the other fairies, or wanting to help the other fairies, or even put that idea into Anne's head. It's like he's realized that this is the best human he's gonna get, so he's just gonna go with it. And it feels also like he's trying to make Anne his new Liz, with me getting to the point again that he's not showing any real reason why he likes Anne. So yeah, the romance was standard, not great, not terrible. Jonas works as an antagonist, not the best reasoning, but he does commit to the bit of being simply unbearable after being rejected. Mithril was annoying for the most part. He did one useful thing, but he should not be a main role character in the show. He's literally a damsel in distress. As far as a rating, it's like a 2.5. I think I could give it a 3 out of 5 if this wasn't a romance anime, or categorized under the umbrella of romance. The show would have been better if it wasn't a romance. Or if the romance simply just had more dialogue to pass the time, rather than awkward staring for so long. We get it, he has pretty eyes. Now tell me what else you like about him. Cutting out the staring and giving him more personality also would be helpful, but whatever. Or also give Mithril some more scenes. I feel like I know more about Jonas than I do about the secondary main character. That's weird.